All right, I got a little story for you guys today about a business that is a gigantic business that's kind of like right in plain sight. You've never heard of it. It's an e-commerce company and it's not built like anything that we've ever done. So that's kind of the hook. Hope that has you boys hooked. This is the checkout. If you haven't been here before, it is the podcast where we gather people that we would start a company with if we could pick anybody in the world, but everybody's busy. So we do a podcast instead. We're two regular co-hosts down today, but that's all right. We got our trusty sixth man of the year, Mr. Nate Lagos. Are you CMO or VP of marketing at Original Grain?
That came up today
Marketing
internally.
master.
Yeah, I'm technically VP, but I was
The Meister.
referred to as CMO in an email today. So
Okay. Well, hey,
we'll see.
So it's
update the
official.
LinkedIn, baby.
So watch out.
You just got a promotion.
I think so.
Sounds like it. Okay. All right. So let me paint a little picture for you boys. All right. It's 1999. You're driving around in your car. You got Livin' La Vida Loca playing on the radio. Maybe a little Britney Spears, Hit Me One More Time. They're at the top of the charts. Living your best life. You're in Wisconsin. The trees are green.
Not my best
Living your
life right there. Just
I mean,
for the
it's
record.
summer, so it's nice, I guess. You're in Wisconsin. You kind of talk like this because you live in Wisconsin. And something breaks down on your car, right? And so you're like, damn, got to go get the car fixed. So you go over to the auto parts store. You're an engineer, so you go pretty good with cars. Go over to the auto parts store to get the part you need. Some dude in freaking overalls who ate like 3 double cheeseburgers for lunch says, yeah, we don't have that in today. And he pulls out this big giant dusty book and he like rolls through it and he's like, yeah, there it is. It costs this much. I can order it. It's going to be here in 2 weeks. And you're like, the hell am I supposed to do for the next 2 weeks? All right. This is basically how auto parts were done at this point in time and still are kind of done if you go to an auto parts store. And so there's these two guys, Tom, I can't remember the name. I think Tom and James. So Tom and James, they live in Wisconsin. This happens to them and they're like, dude, one of them calls the other one up and he's like, hey man, have you heard about that new internet thing? And he's like, we should sell auto parts on there. And the other brother's like, you're a smart guy. I'll trust you. So these are two brothers and they start a brand called Rock Auto. They start a website, rockauto.com. I'm going to put this in the private chat or you guys can just open it. rockauto.com. Open this thing up. Or better yet, I'll share my screen.
Everybody talks about optimizing their ads, but they don't spend enough time talking about optimizing their overall website, which is something that I think more of us need to spend time doing and more of us need to spend time thinking through. The reason why most people don't do it is because you actually can't track revenue per element on your site. Heatmap.com does that. And that's something exactly why I love them and why we use it, because it's easy enough for me to use and it's easy enough for us to like communicate what exactly the changes are doing for our people. I like heatmap.com because it specifically drives revenue for us per element that we have. And so there's no real back and forth discussion. It's either going to start to work or we're going to get rid of it because it's tied directly to revenue. Google Analytics, which we all terribly hate, only talks about what's happening on the overall website, not the actual elements within the website. At the end of the day, the only valuable data point that we can gather are the ones that drive revenue. And if you aren't able to track that or update that, you're really wasting your time, which is why we use Heatmap, because we're able to track that specific data and know what optimizations we need to do next. Head on over to heatmap.com, give it a 14-day free trial. Worst case, it's not for you. You don't want to use it. Best case, you find a bunch of money and you make a bunch of money.
Built on Shopify, I can see.
Is it built on Shopify?
No.
No,
it's
definitely
built on,
not built on
No,
Shopify.
definitely not.
This is awful. It's the worst website I've ever seen. Okay. So it's just like, but it does probably, there's no revenue estimate on this, but I can tell you SimilarWeb has their traffic at about 20 to 25 million visitors a month. Revenue estimates on this, I think reasonable revenue estimates on this. I think they do $20 million a month. I think they do $240 million a year. Some estimates as high as $540 million a year. And it's just literally a gigantic catalog of every part for every vehicle you could ever want. It's Auto Parts Online. They started in 1999 and it's just all SEO. They rank toward the top for anything you search for. And then they run Google ads 6 employees at this business. So they have 6 employees. They're doing like multiple hundreds of million a year in revenue. The two brothers still own it. I can't remember their last name, but that's it. It's just like these two freaking Wisconsin brothers who are just like, oh yeah, we should start an online auto parts store. I think that could do pretty good, you know. And then they did it, and now they're freaking rolling in it. And the concept here, I think, is like we think about e-commerce brands a certain kind of way, and then there's this whole other world, this like whole other ecosystem. It's like the southern hemisphere of e-commerce brands that just like live in a demand gen world where they're just like, you looking for auto parts? Well, we've got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's such a big difference between, like, I feel like everyone in our world, we might sell something that people want,
Yeah.
which might be whatever. I'm sure there's a stat that's the vast minority of spending out there.
Mm-hmm.
So many companies sell people things that they need.
Yeah.
And like they can't live without. And I think this checks that box, and we never experience it because no one needs, if you sell on Shopify, no one needs the thing you sell.
For the most
Like,
part. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a luxury.
Yeah.
It's a fancier version of a commoditized thing. Like, there are some great products out there. I'm not shitting on all of us, but no one needs a watch. No one needs a dad gang hat. You might argue with me on that, Bart.
Yeah, that's big debatable.
Yeah,
We
that's
both
big
said no.
debatable.
In one
But
sentence,
like,
you said no one needs a dad gang hat, and then you called him Bert.
yeah, tough start to the pod. I'm drinking
The
whiskey
jab
already too.
haymaker
I'd
from
like
Nate.
that on the
Yeah,
record.
he's a glass deep. So let's.
Yeah, Bart, I'm very sorry.
Sorry, Bert.
I'll admit, no one needs a watch from OG
Yeah.
to live. But if I need a new belt or fan or filter or something for my car, like I need that. And yeah, none of us exist in that world of marketing. That is just like, no, people are actively searching for things they need to live their lives.
I
And these
worked
people are
for
clearly capturing it.
So like during COVID, I consulted for this. It was very similar, like really boring layout. I mean, as boring as possible. This looks like a Windows 95 layout.
Yeah.
But like I got brought on to consult for this company. I don't even call them brands at this point, just like a company to help
Right.
with like protective gear during COVID. And this guy was like the number one supplier for like, some people just wore masks during COVID, but some people wore like full on space suits to go grocery shopping.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This
Right.
guy had
Some people
every
saran wrapped their whole body, you know?
yeah, this guy had every single accessory from like your basic mask to yeah, these robot machines that you could wear over your body. And like I just helped him. He was so like, I have this product, I don't understand the internet, how do I do this? So I just helped consult on like the channels on and how to use them. But that's just like that. People needed that stuff. There were actual shortages on those things, and he just took advantage.
Yeah. And I think it's I think I never really realized that this whole kind of southern hemisphere, I'm calling it, tentatively the southern hemisphere of e-commerce, where it's just like demand generation, kind of need based. It maybe not necessarily need based, but they're never really even trying to like advertise their product to create demand for it. They're just like, look, it'd be like a watch company that's like, I sell watches when people are looking for watches, right? Like I'm a watch store online. I don't really want to convince you. I don't want to sell you on the idea of a watch. I just want to sell you my watch once you're already sold on the idea, right? And I think I never realized how big it was till being at Triple Whale for the last year. And it would be like maybe 30% of the brands I would talk to would have Google as just their biggest channel by far. So much bigger, spending way more there than Meta ads. And it's a lot of times it is stuff like this. It's like auto parts, or like, if you do any kind of like, like RV stuff, right? Like RV gear and like it just like things like that you just wouldn't even really think of, that it's like, oh yeah, like people will kind of like research it and like buy it, or mountain biking stuff or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like they research it and they like kind of
Yeah.
buy it. And like the way that you win is you have like the worst product names ever that are just like all the specs of the product is just in the name. It's like, TLD 1500 15 millimeter, like,
The
fork,
SKUs are
you know,
crazy.
yeah, stainless steels. Like it just literally just says everything in there. And they just kill it doing this. They kill it because they're like, when people are looking for that exact thing, this comes up. And then it's just SKU expansion. I mean, their logistics are pretty wild for sure. You know what I mean? Like the way that you scale, like Rock Auto is a really scaled out version of this where, the number of SKUs they have is insane. Like I was just going through the site and I had to click, I had to make like 5 to 7 clicks before I could even get to a product. It was like, what make of vehicle, what year, what model. Like I had to like make all these clicks before to even be like, oh, you need an air conditioning, this specific air conditioning part. Here's all of our options. And then there's like 10 options. So yeah, like
This website is crazy.
it's
Like
crazy.
Insane.
I
Here's the
just because
thing. 20 to 25 million visits a month. I bet their conversion rate is through the roof because you don't even go to that site unless you're going to convert.
Right.
Like that is so bad. It's such a bad user experience that I don't think you even go there unless you're going to convert. I bet they're doing, like, if I had to guess, I bet they're doing 40 or $60 million a month in revenue. That'd be like my guess.
that's so funny. So I have the Lexus GX 550 and like a cap came
Nice
off
flex.
of.
Love that.
Just
Sorry,
find it.
but the cap, like a very small cap, I just like didn't grab it on the way out of getting my rack installed,
Mhm.
and I just found it on this website, like the specific cap for
Yeah.
that rack, which is like, I don't even think the like Lexus dealer had it to help me,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean this is so specific, like you really whatever you want. And I noticed there's some other sponsors. Like if you just, I typed in auto parts for any car, there's like carparts.com, Parts Geek, but then they're the first organic result once you get past 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go to O'Reilly or AutoZone or any of these like legacy places too, like they don't have it all.
Yeah.
So
Well, I wonder how much of Rock Auto's business is B2B.
That's what I
Like,
was going to say. I bet
if
it's a
you
lot
work
of
at O'Reilly Auto Parts, is this not where you go when someone comes in and they need a part from you? 'Cause I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they go.
or,
yeah.
or just I bet a lot of mechanics do for sure. Like I
Yeah.
bet that was a big thing in kind of the 2000s when you had more independent mechanic shops, and this thing was. So it's like, oh, I don't have to like go freaking order it from the manufacturer anymore. I can just go to this website and get it quicker. Like great, I'll just do that even if I pay a little more or whatever. And then
I'm
I bet
gonna
they probably implemented wholesale pricing, and yeah. So then if that's the case and it's a lot of B2B traffic, then their conversion rate is absolutely through the roof.
Yeah.
My Grant, who owns Dad Gang with me, his dad and his family have owned an auto parts shop in Seattle for like multiple generations.
Mhm.
So I just hit up his dad to see if he uses Rock Auto to get his parts
awesome.
into the shop.
I bet he's heard of it.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's like, could you do this today? No, not in not in auto parts, because Rock Auto did it in 1999. But I do think that I think we have this tendency to think that all those opportunities are dried up now, but they're not. I don't think that that's true. So some, like, I just in the past 2 years, I would say I've met people who are doing this in e-commerce and in like just other non-e-commerce hustly businesses. So there's an e-commerce founder that I know, and he has like a bag company now. But what he used to do is he used to have an auto body shop specifically that like worked with insurance companies. So it's basically like if you got in a wreck and you needed to like fix your, like the body of your vehicle, he was the main one that in a certain area, a certain geography, he was like the main one that worked with different insurances. So it was like, yeah, there was a little bit of a barrier inch, but for people in that specific scenario and that specific geography, he didn't even have to sell them. He just got the business, right? Because the insurance was paying for it. So like that's one example of that, where it's like, oh, when somebody's in a need situation, any sort of HVAC or service-based business, HVAC plumbing is basically this exact thing. I also know a guy who's in insurance, and he was doing auto insurance for a while, but he switched to some other kind of insurance. I can't remember exactly what it is. You know what? I think it is like high risk auto. So specifically people who like most people don't want to cover or whatever. He just like went through kind of a bunch of BS to like work with insurance companies that would cover them. And then it's like, yeah, he in that area or whatever, if you're high risk, like he's your only option. And he just started running Facebook ads to get like that were just like, hey, can you not get auto insurance? Nobody will insure you. Like I can get you insured. And he got super qualified leads for super cheap, you know, and it was like I think there's a lot of times a little bit of a barrier to entry to these businesses, or you have to find that opportunity where it's like, where are people searching for a thing, but there's like a gap in what they're looking for, right? Like there's a market inefficiency. You're finding a market inefficiency. So the one here with Rock Auto was, it's really inefficient to like go into the auto parts store and like have Jim in overalls who ate 3 double cheeseburgers order this, and it's going to take 4 weeks, right? You know, like we could probably figure out a more efficient way to do this. But even at a smaller scale, at when I was running growth at Ondar, a lot of, you know, like one of our top selling products was our laptop cases, and we were one of the only brands that made leather laptop cases. So like for Mac, if you wanted a leather case for your Mac, there's just not options out, but we made one. So we would move like a good number of those every month, because if you search for that on Google, we're kind of the only one there, right? So there's lots of little gaps in lots of places. It's just, you know, if you're in this business, your job is finding those little gaps, or being like, you know, hey, if I'm going to make a travel bag or a backpack, you know, what's a little gap? Like what's a way I can make it a little bit different, where if people are looking for this certain thing in there, I'm going to grab all of those people who are already shopping and they want, you know, this specific, this, you know, these exact specifications or something like that. So I think you can do this in a lot of niches, right?
So I asked Grant's dad. He said, no, they do not house anything. They just pull from auto parts warehouses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just drop ship.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
And they're doing, I mean, look, I guess their conversion rate could be low, but low end estimate, they got to be doing 10 million a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to be the hub to get everything.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts on this, guys?
It's just so backwards to how most of us think about growing our businesses. Like,
yeah,
we're all so like marketing driven.
Oh my gosh. Put this homepage out on X.
Yeah.
And
like,
all the LP optimizers would go crazy.
right.
Yeah,
I know.
Like
I think there's a whole, I talked to a PE company that this is just their whole thesis. They just buy brands or start brands where they're like, oh, there's a gap in Google Ads. Like there's a market inefficiency in Google Ads in this product. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's their whole thesis. And they do decently. Like their brands do. None of them are huge, but they all do okay. You know what I mean? And then they just stack up a bunch of them. It's probably an easier game to play, but it's feels less fun. You know what I mean? Like I don't want, it's like, hey, that's cool. I admire it.
I don't know, man. 10 million a month sounds pretty fun to me.
Yeah.
I admire it. I don't know if I want to do it, but maybe if it's my brand and I'm actually the one running a 10 to $50 million a month business with 6 employees, maybe I'm singing a different tune. I'm like, yeah, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to work for a brand like that, let's say. Wouldn't lend itself to
but your paycheck might be nice, and then you'll say, oh, never mind, I'll work here.
Yeah, for maybe. Yeah. I also, do you feel it would be hard? I guess, you know, maybe this one, I guess this is to all of us. Let's say working for a brand like that, or like getting involved with a brand like that as some sort of vendor, you know, like a service provider. Do you think it would be hard to bring value to them?
I think it'd be easy. Cause like if they have that kind of demand, and then you just like sprinkle a dash of like average e-commerce marketer know-how into it, I think you double the business like pretty quick.
So I think there's basically what you're saying is I think there's like maybe a whole other business opportunity here of either active agencies or somebody who's trying to start an agency that specifically angles for this type of company.
Yeah. Like I think about like for like, you know, I've had the privilege to do collabs with like some billion-dollar brands, and it's so interesting getting a, you know, peek behind the curtain at them. I'm like, oh, you guys don't know how to run e-commerce. at all.
That's almost
But you're doing
billions of dollar
billions
brands.
more
You can
dollars
almost
of
count on
revenue.
it. They don't know how to.
Yeah, so I think like there's definitely an opportunity, and I feel like for a lot of us who sell things that are not basic necessities,
Yeah.
we have gotten so good at demand generation that like we almost forget what it's like to market a product that has real existing demand. So no, I like that would be interesting. I don't want to do it
Yeah.
for Rock Auto, but like it'd be interesting to go into one of those brands and just sprinkle a dash of what we all know to be true about
Right.
digital advertising. I think it would absolutely
Yeah.
crush.
I did. There's a brand called Vertex, Vertex. They do seat covers for trucks, and they specifically do for any kind of truck leather seat covers that are really nice. So you're basically to take your like if you buy a truck, leather seats are typically an upgrade, kind of expensive upgrade. So a lot of people will buy the truck, but they won't get the leather seats. Um, or you could, so because you could just buy a seat cover from Vertex that's like a pretty nice seat cover that's basically going to turn your seat into a leather seat.
Yeah.
And they kind of kill it. And I came in and did like some Facebook ads for them. I think I ran like an advertorial or something like that. And I was shocked. Like I did not think it would do that well, but it's like this really niche audience that knows what they're looking for already. You don't really have to convince them that much. And it did really, really well.
Yeah,
They do well with Google ads too, but
my like probably most relevant experience to it. You guys aren't baseball fans, are you?
Here and there.
Not
Here and there.
not a huge baseball fan.
Well, if you guys are familiar with John Boy Media,
Yes,
John,
love John Boy
John,
Media. Yeah,
great.
big,
So
big fan of
I
John
helped.
Boy. Yeah,
Yeah, John Boy's the man. His whole company is great.
yeah,
Courtney,
amazing company. Should do a
their
breakdown on
new
them sometime.
CEO, is awesome.
Mhm,
But a couple of years ago, they had me come in and like kind of teach them how Facebook ads worked.
mhm,
And this is a creator-led brand that's getting tens of millions of organic impressions
mhm,
a month, a week. They absolutely kill it on organic content. And I did what I always do when I teach someone how to run Facebook ads. I set expectations low.
mhm,
I'm like, hey, like let's try to break even for a month. Let's see what happens. We'll scale this up gradually. And the first week we ran ads, we were at a 7x return on ad spend. And I
because they're
think,
amazing at content.
yeah, and I think that is a taste of like, oh, the demand generation part of this is done. It's being done by the organic creators every single day. Now all these ads have to do is like clean up people who are already interested. And I think that's like a through line with a lot of these businesses, like just a little bit
Mhm.
of digital advertising, a little bit of CRO
Yeah.
would go a long, long way.
Similar thing here. I talked to a brand 2 weeks ago that I just got randomly introduced to. They have over 7 million followers on Instagram, uh, and do about 20,000 a month in revenue. And I was like,
They're sitting on
okay,
cash.
what are what are
they
we
real
doing here?
followers?
Yeah.
You know how hard 7 million is to get on Instagram, right? For anything.
Yeah.
It's
Unless
way
you're,
harder than 20 grand a month in
I'll
ecom
say this:
Yeah.
revenue.
7 million's a big enough number that it's kind of hard to get 7 million fake followers. You got to spend a lot.
Oh yeah, and no, and their engagement is like it's through the roof. Thousands and thousands of comments, likes,
That's really
everything matches up, right? And go through them, and they're all legit. But like, yeah, I'm like, so what ads are you running? And they're like, none. Like, okay, well, let's just go one Advantage Plus campaign and let's see what happens for you. And so they're doing it now, and I'll meet with them again just to like chat,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they're going to crush. But I'm like, just building that audience is so hard. Like most celebrities don't have 7 million. Most
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
NBA, NFL players don't have 7 million. You have it, so let's
Mhm.
let's use it to our advantage.
Engaged. That's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
and like think about the brands we know in our world that are doing 100 million a year, 250 million a year. I don't think any of them have 7 million followers.
No,
That's a
not at
huge
all.
number.
Yeah. Okay, Bart, one of the big things I'm seeing a lot in Facebook ad accounts these days is a lot of spend on product catalogs. And I'm really, really seeing this a ton in apparel and clothing. I'm curious how much of your budget is going toward catalog?
Yeah, we have really good product photography. So a majority of our spend recently has been going to catalog ads. 40, 50, and sometimes 60% is going
Mhm.
into catalog ads, DPAs. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of great results from it.
Yeah, even just going catalogs to cold audiences. One of the issues though, of course, with catalogs is that you can't stand out creatively. Like you can't, it's just your product photos.
Yeah.
So like I think, we've solved for that in an interesting way with Dad Gang, with our partner Marpipe. So can you just kind of break down what you're doing with Marpipe to try and get better results out of your catalog ads?
Marpipe was able to come in and kind of mix up our creative a lot. We kind of felt like we were cornered into this. You can only show white background images or whatever's on your Shopify site, and they were able to come in and bust out a bunch of variations of that catalog, adding copy or adding various backgrounds or even simple things like price. Before that, we were just kind of held to white background. Here's the hat, and here's the copy of the ad. Whereas now that creative can showcase a lot more about the brand to a cold or a remarketing audience.
Yeah. Cool. So if you're a Facebook advertiser, marketer, founder, anything like that, you're most likely running product catalog ads in your Facebook ad account already. Check out Marpipe if you want to basically just put those product catalog ads on steroids. I think, if I'm kind of like dialing this in, so I think a couple opportunities thing that I am thinking about here really is obviously I think if you're like starting a brand, this is something to think. The three of us, and maybe our whole audience isn't like this. Maybe there are some people in our audience that are in a brand that's a little more like the one we're talking about here. But like, um, yeah, I think if you're starting a brand, definitely an avenue to think about. Like I know Nate, last time you were on, you were kind of saying like at some point I'll start a brand, and then you're going to be like the Tim Duncan of eCom. We're never going to hear from you again, right? And you're like,
The Tim Duncan of
Grow
eCom.
out super long
when's the
dreads.
last time you heard from Tim Duncan, dude? Tim Duncan hasn't said shit in
No, he's
years.
gone.
He's gone.
He just popped up at a game the other day, and
Oh, did he?
they're like, "Who is this caveman?" Because he
Yeah.
just like
That's so
showed
funny.
up like so tired looking, dreads, and they're like, "Is Tim Duncan okay?" He's like,
Like he
"Yeah,
came out
dude.
of the jungle for it.
He's living the most chill life ever. He just decided to go watch a basketball game."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure I'll do that. I'll come hop on some podcasts with
Yeah.
longer hair and a longer beard one day.
Karl Malone's a little like that too. He just like lives in some backwoods Louisiana. He has a bunch of business ventures as well. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Um, so you were kind of saying last time, like at some point I'll start a brand. I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I don't know, like me. I'm like, I maybe I'll probably be a brand founder at some point, but I'm not gonna force it. I'm gonna like kind of wait till I feel like I have the product that like, and I don't know, Bart, how Dad Gang came to you, but like when that kind of Dad Gang brand comes
Yeah,
to you,
yeah,
like,
we didn't. We just jumped into it's like, let's see what happens here. 100 hats. Let's try
right,
it.
but
And
like the idea of it, was it kind of floating around for a while, or were you like, yeah, at some point maybe I'll start a brand, and then you had this idea for Dad Gang, and you're like, that's it, that's the brand. That's kind of how I picture it happening.
yeah, there was just no force. Like you said, I won't force it. It was just kind of like, all
Oh,
right,
this is,
this sounds
I think
good.
this is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was
Mhm.
about it. And we were always using the term "dad gang" in our text
Right.
thread anyway. So it's like, let's make some hats.
I'm not
But
gonna
yeah,
force myself to sell, freaking um like socks because I saw a
right.
market opportunity in socks. You know what I mean? Like then
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of that thought that goes on. It's like I think for like us and people like in our shoes, kind of with experience, you kind of have this moment where you're like, okay, I've done this for so long for so many other people. I think I'm good enough to like do it for myself.
I think
But
yeah, for
you have that aha moment, and then you also need the aha product, right?
that's
So
it.
it's kind of like a
The product comes along and finds the operator. I think that's what happened to
yeah,
our co-host Nick as well. It's like he'd been doing marketing, the marketing side of it for a long time, never crossed over the product side, and then kind of Breeze came along and found him.
yeah,
Um, and he was like, "Yeah, this is the right product, right, for me." So I think anyway, but my point was that if you're kind of in that position, this is a whole other angle to think about. You know what I mean? Of like, aside from looking at opportunities of like, you know, where does this fit my skill set or whatever, how, like, what would this look like on Instagram, or, you know, how would I advertise? Like, where is there just like oh, okay, like when you're shopping for this kind of product, like there's a huge market inefficiency or a huge gap in Google ads or something like that, right? Like this is a whole other angle to think about if you're a brand founder. If you already have a brand, or if you ever already have a brand, so like if you're, you know, Original Grain, is there some just demand capture opportunity out there of like people who are like, you know, alternative to blank watch, or, you know, it's like people who are looking for a certain kind of watch that you're like, oh, if we just step into that like point where they've already are pretty well researched, they're just looking for the, you know, few products to narrow it down to, like, can we step in right there? You know, if you're a jewelry brand, can you step in right at like, oh, you know, let's step right into oh, a really regular thing people will look for is like some sort of message based jewelry or some sort of this kind of jewelry or whatever. Like, is there opportunity in your, like, that is like a natural natural extension of your brand already? And then I think an interesting agency opportunity is pursuing these kinds of brands as clients, either if you're an active agency already, or if you're starting an agency pursuing these brands as clients. And I think there's a couple ways you could go about it. You could one, try and actually bring real value to them, or two, you know, and I'm not saying this is great, but like if you got Rock Auto as a Facebook ads client and just threw up some retargeting campaigns or some catalog campaigns on Meta, they'd probably do pretty damn well. There would be some incremental revenue. Meta would report way more increment. Like Meta would tell you were getting a 20x ROAS, you know, and maybe you'd be getting a 2 or a 3 or a 4, something like that. But you know, you'd be bringing some value, and you know, you could probably charge a Rock Auto 6-8K a month for that and not have to work that hard for your money, and be bringing them, you know, 20K or 30K a month in value. And it's not a ton of work for you. It's kind of worth it for them. And they'll kind of keep sending you that check every month. And if you get 4 or 5 of those, like that's like, you know, you and a VA, that's like a good little business or a good little like section of your agency. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if they even email, like mass email
Right.
all the shops that they're tied
What
in
would
with.
you mass email? We've got auto
Well,
parts.
Hey,
hey,
need
new part
anything?
came in.
Hey, need anything?
Hey,
New
do you
brakes just
need
dropped.
anything? We
Need
have
literally
everything.
anything.
Yeah.
Seasonal stuff, you know, like, oh, winter's coming up. These tires just dropped.
It's true. Maybe winter tires. Yeah.
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 That kind of
We've
thing.
we've had some success thinking like how can we make our brand more utilitarian? Like how
Mhm.
can we make it more necessary? Because while like nobody needs a watch to tell time, owning one of our watches creates a need for some other things. So we now sell a bunch of display boxes for your watches. We sell like travel cases for them.
Uh-huh.
So there are things that like even if you're a brand out there like me that thinks like, well, no one needs what I have. Think about, you know, like development that can solve problems that maybe owning your problems creates. Like Bart, I've seen photos from your customers of dads who have 30 hats. Does a
Yeah.
hat
Travel
shelf, does a
cases
hat
and that kind of
rack,
stuff.
like, does that make sense at some point? I know for us, like the display boxes have absolutely crushed.
Yeah.
And that's something that like we've seen. It's great to sell someone who has bought one watch from us. They hold either 3 or 5. And we've seen that if we can sell someone a box, then they're more likely to fill it up with other
How
Oh,
much
watches
do
yeah.
you
from
charge
Good
us.
for the
call.
box?
I think in upsells they're discounted a little bit, so maybe like $49 for the 3 holder and $79 for the 5 holder.
I was gonna
So
say it
like
would make it interesting on a sale, because you're not you. It does sound like it's a pretty nice thing. You're not trying to devalue it, but I think an interesting sale for you might be just like box as GWP, as gift with purchase. That way, somebody buys one but buys the holder, and then it's like, man, you got these empty like kind of, you got that holder encouraging you to come back and get more watches every day. You know?
yeah, we're starting to play with that as an acquisition offer a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've seen like if we can sell someone a box or
Get the
even
holder
give
in the hand.
someone a
Mhm.
box, they are much more likely to come back from to buy from us again and again. And for a business that doesn't do great on repeat purchases, like
Mhm.
that's been super impactful for us.
It would be interesting to take do an experiment of like a surprise and delight gift of the holder with just 100 first time customers who are single watch buyers, and just then like watch over the next 2 or 3 months the repeat purchase rate from that cohort of 100 versus your normal, you know?
We have a bundle right now that's like I think my favorite test we're running. It's a 4-watch bundle, so you get 4 wa- watches, and the box holds 5.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Ah.
And we're just kind of waiting to see like how quick
Wait,
can
is
Just
I
the
got an
flip.
empty
bundle
one in there?
is it bundled with the box?
Yep.
Oh,
It's because
okay.
we only had 4 watches in this specific collection, and we only have a 5 or a 3 holder. So we were like, let's put the 5 holder. We're developing a 4 holder. But for now, we were like, let's do it. And now I'm kind of playing a fun game of like, how quick can I sell you the 5th watch? 'Cause I want
Hopefully
to do it
no
quick.
OG loyalists watch this. They're like, oh, that's how they've been manipulating me.
Yeah, that's how we've been
That's how they've
tricking
been
you
getting
guys.
me.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Are
Anything
you
else on this, guys? I think this is
but
a good,
no,
you know, I think this is a good one for like really honestly anyone who's in ecom. Like the other thing is SaaS companies. SaaS companies don't go after these brands as much because they're just not as out there. So it's
yeah.
like these are like one of the big things, you know, and again, I kind of talk about Triple Whale a lot for somebody who's not a sponsor, but like that was a big corner turn for them. Like in our communities, a lot of people are like, oh, they seem like they're falling off. I don't hear from them as much anymore. Meanwhile, in the year I was there, they went from like 10,000 brands to like 30,000 brands because they really started focusing on like, what's the wide world of e-commerce outside of our little like D2C online circle? And it's companies like this, you know what I mean? Or it's companies that
Yeah.
are so big that all the people who work there are like, you know, I don't want to like say this like a bad thing, but they're 9-to-5ers. Like they're people who got a job and then like got a marketing job at, you know, XYZ company out of college or whatever, you know, like that, you know, you get what I'm saying? Like they're not as hustly or entrepreneurial or whatever. Right. So that like that's a huge unlock, I think, for SaaS companies too, is just like find the brands that are getting a just ton of Google traffic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
All right, Bart, what you got? You want to talk AI ads? You're the if you wanted to go viral on Twitter this week, on X this last week, the move was to make a thread about AI. GPT 4.0, is it 04 4.0?
Looks like a 4 and an O, not a
4
0.
4.0, not 0.
4
O.
lowercase o.
Yeah, 4
Yeah.
little o. And you know, make a thread of ads that you made with it.
Yeah.
I kind of have a take on this, but Bart just said, "Hey, these aren't very good." What was your exact tweet? Hot take. Don't like
Hot
the AI
take,
ads.
these ads suck.
Yeah.
And it
A
got
lot
like
of people didn't like. Apparently, it was
75,000
a hot take. I was like,
impressions.
"That's not that hot."
Which, by the way, isn't a hot take. They're all bad.
They're not good. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're better.
No,
They're
man.
better than they were. So the
So
main thing I would say it's done. Sorry to step on you here, Bart. The main thing I would say it's done is like before, if you gave an image prompt to Chat GPT, it couldn't get text right. Like it would put it
yeah.
in a different language or it would jumble up the letters, or it just couldn't do text. And now it can do text, and that's pretty much it. That's the only change that's happened.
Yeah, and I think like actual layout formats have gotten a little bit better, but like
Yeah.
everyone, I don't know, it's what we do on X. Something rolls out on any platform and then we just go nuts and the industry shifts for one day and then people come back the next day and say never mind. And I feel like with and I'm speaking from like my product and what I do, and I'm also speaking from the first iteration of 4.0 or whatever it is. Like right now I think they suck. Not to say that they're not going to get better. A lot of people responded were like, dude, this is just the flip phone of these ads. And it's like, you're correct. And
Sure.
I'm just speaking from like right now what it is. And when it comes to product, like Shaq has Breeze, which is a simple can, right? That Chat GPT is not going to have trouble making a can with copy all around it and all that kind of stuff. But like I put in the most perfect photos we have of our hats, and I'm like, do not change this image at all. Like input this hat into an ad and make it say this, add a baby bottle, put some spilled milk in a pacifier, like, trying to make some cool kind of like dad stuff. And
Yeah.
it would get everything right, but screw up the product. And so I'm like, well, how am I going to advertise the wrong product? Right. And then kept doing it. And I think they look a little like, you guys remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yeah.
That show with
Yeah.
like clay
Yeah.
wrestlers that are
Yeah.
celebrities. I think even the font and like the text, if you look at the at the images that it's spitting out a little close up, it's a little like waxy, clay looking.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, dude, they just suck. Like I'm not excited about them at all. But I do see a path where this stuff improves and all of that. But for now, it's like I'm not changing anything in my ad
Yeah.
account structure to include these ads.
Yeah, I think this was like the biggest shiny object overreaction I've seen in my time on Twitter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, same for us that have a complicated, detailed product. It refuses to
Read it.
leave it alone.
Yeah.
And we asked it why, and it told us due to OpenAI like intellectual property policies, they're not allowed to use our exact
Yeah.
product in the thing.
So,
And it's like, well, then all right, I'll see you when that changes.
so like I would love to use them to like make our thumbnails, but I can be like, all right, here's the images of the host. Can you make a thumbnail that's like this or whatever? And they'd be like, no, I can't use the images of the host. I'm like, but it's me. And they're like, yeah, we can't do it. So I mean,
So
I
that
don't
has
know.
to
There's something in
shift.
their policy
Yeah.
or something like that. But I also think that, yeah, the detail thing, I saw somebody else who has a hat brand, I think, that made some examples of like hats on people. And some of them were passable, but most of it, it's just like it doesn't quite get it right.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like you're saying, it will probably get better. But like it's like, you know, if you put you know, if you like prompt it and say like, you know, put this hat on Nate Legos, it just like the hat's on him all crooked. You know what I'm saying?
Well, dude, I think this whole thing is part of like a larger trend in the industry that I don't understand, where everyone is racing to the bottom on creative costs. And like for us at OG this year, we set a goal to spend the most money we've ever spent on creating better content.
Yeah.
And every time I tell that to people, they're like, "You're dumb." And I'm like, "All right, I'll see you on the other side of this." But like I don't see a problem in investing in content. When we all agree content's king,
Yeah.
and content is the medium through which we sell every single dollar of revenue,
Right.
then
Yeah.
why are we trying to cheap out on it?
Now it's
I
shifted
don't
to like
understand.
faster and cheaper content is king. For some reason, that's like the overall feel right now. And it's
Mhm.
like I don't know. Like the other thing is that those prompts, you like if you don't get it right, you have to be good at prompting. And then you
Mhm.
got to keep chatting to this thing. And then the image generation's super slow too. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I have good product photography, right? So I can just like if I make hats, if I make watches, if I make bottles or whatever, like
Mhm.
just go get that product photo. It's not that expensive to go
Yeah.
get decent product photography unless you're going like Rolex, super detailed. Like, I mean, I know you guys are doing some like more detailed stuff right now, and it sure that costs more. But when it comes to like just the product by itself, you can hop into Canva and make stuff that's really, really exact
Yeah.
with your product, and their AI capabilities are improving too. So it's just like I'm not trying to battle like ChatGPT versus
Mhm.
Canva here, but at the same time, it's like, dude, that'll take me like 7 to 10 minutes. Whereas like if I'm just prompting a robot all day to get one asset, and then
That's
it's
almost as
taking
good.
like 8 to 10 minutes for it to render that asset, then I've like wasted all day getting this waxy
Yeah.
claymation ad. It just
Well,
does not make sense to me.
dude, and the problem is, like every service in our industry, this is only fast and cheap until the guys who are good at it start agencies where they provide this as a service for $6,000 a month, and there's a week lead time to get new creative. And it's like, well, then
Yeah.
we're back to what we're
Back
all
to where we
doing
were.
right now anyway.
I love the
So
Ghibli style, the cartoon stuff. I think that's like just fun stuff you can do for your brand.
Well,
I posted a bunch of like cool dad gang pictures in that cartoon
yeah,
style.
right.
Just yesterday, like April Fools. We're just over here fooling around with OpenAI, and that was kind of like the fun I had with it. But for
Or
making
make a
like,
comic book. Yeah. Make something
yeah,
that's purposely not supposed to be like
yeah.
super great or whatever. Yeah.
Can I tell you that there will be one ad that I launched this week that has an AI image in it? And it's a split screen of we told the AI to make this watch over here, and then it's our real photography of it. And the headline's going to say, "Not even artificial intelligence can make watches look as good as we do."
that's amazing.
Mhm.
And it's
Perfect.
like, other than that use case,
I like
I
that
don't
for your
see one
audience
right
too.
now.
I bet that will do
Yeah,
well.
Well, and you're using the shittiness of the AI
Yeah.
to just
right,
to highlight how great your watches are in real life.
Can I,
right.
yeah. because I feel we're poo-pooing on this, and I think that a lot of people are like, well, you got to use AI, otherwise you're going to get left behind. And I'm like, well, that's maybe a whole other like can of worms that I like. I think my current thesis on AI is that I'm like, I think that there's a good chance AI displaces enough jobs that it creates a big ass problem, but not enough that we have to do something like universal basic income about it. But that's maybe just a whole other can of worms, right? Um,
Yeah.
but like, this is kind of how people feel, is like, I really need to be good at this, otherwise I'm going to get left behind. So I think, just to clarify, we're not saying don't use AI. We're saying right now it's not great at doing like end product ads.
Yeah.
I think a couple things that you can use it for. So like some good use case, really good use cases I've found for specifically AI, maybe image generation, is concepting. So a lot of times creative agencies uh, have to pitch like some form of like concept sheet or something like that to the client to get like the concept approved before they write a script or before they start shooting it or whatever, right? Um, a lot of times what they're doing is they're trying to pull something, they're trying to pull some social media video or ad that already exists and link it up. But sometimes you have an idea that you're like, this doesn't already exist, it's just an idea I have or whatever. Using AI as an image to like create the visual for that, incredible. I found that to be like one of the best like use cases I've seen done. I have a friend who's doing this, and his whole agency pulls like example ads out of their like whatever saved ads bank that they use or whatever, and he just makes an AI generated image, and it's so much faster, and the client gets it. The client just needs something visual to look at, right? So I think that's a really good use case. I think another good use case is AI's best use case that I found so far is not necessarily as a like do this for me partner, but more as a thought partner. So I think that if you're like, give it some information about your brand, or go tell it to look at your website, or, be like, hey, I'm wanting to come up with some new ad ideas for my brand. Ask me some questions about the brand, and then I'm going to have you help me come up with ideas, and have it ask you enough questions that it has context, and then be like, all right, I'm looking to do some like kind of funny ads that will appeal to men age kind of like 35 to 55 that make this much money or whatever, right? Like, can you come up with a few concepts? Then it spits out the concepts. That's not what you're going to use. But maybe you like one of them, one of the 10 that it spits out. Maybe you like one and you run with it. Maybe a couple other ones you're like, okay, I like this, but I'm going to actually rewrite the copy because I don't think it's not good at humor yet, right? So I'm going to make it, I'm going to write a punch up on the copy or whatever. So I think it's best as a thought partner at this point.
That is how I write it, or how I use it to write copy for sure. I call it like it's just like a sparring partner for copywriting.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that I'll do a lot is like I'll tell it like, hey, write 100 taglines for this upcoming collaboration, just to get ideas going, and like just to force it to be like, hey, if you come up with 100, one of them might give me an idea that's pretty good. Like just try to force quality through quantity, basically. I think
ChatGPT named the checkout the name of the podcast. Like I'd ask information about the podcast, to ask me stuff, and then it gave me ideas. And 1 out of the 50 it gave me, I was like, I kind of like the checkout. And Bart was like, I kind of like it too.
Copy is great, I think. We're, or maybe me mainly, we're just shitting on one element of everything that AI can do with these new like, static ads, I guess. But no, copy wise, I use it all the time. Captions, emails, headlines, all that stuff.
I do talk to chat every single day.
Image update has done is made it so how you would use it for copy like that, where you'd use it as this sparring partner. I think you can use it for image ads that way now, but you can't have it do the end image yet, if that makes sense. So you can be like, hey, help me come up with some concepts. Here's what I'm going for. It gives you some, and you're like, that's not quite it. Give me 10 different ones. I want something more like this or whatever. And then it's like, okay, that's good, but it's not quite punchy enough. So I'm going to do these 4 concepts and I'm going to punch them up. You know what I mean?
Have you guys played with Sora?
No,
I think that's what it's called, unless I said that wrong. But
Sora's the video one.
Yeah, I've done some stuff in there. Last night I was like, all right, take this amazing photo of this dad gang hat and make it like just stay there, like stay put. But I want a milk bottle dropping like from the sky and spilling on the ground. But it was doing the craziest shit. It was like turning the hat into a milk bottle that ended up spilling all over the ground. I'm like, dude, what is this?
I want to tell you some things that we were learning about the Breeze website that was costing us a bunch of money that we actually didn't know until we installed a heat map. On our product page, we have bullet points that looked like buttons. We had elements that looked like buttons that you actually can't click. And we were finding out that we were literally losing money because the navigation was so unclear that to the thousands of dollars because of the amount of traffic we're spending, we weren't able to find success. And so heatmap.com was able to kind of highlight and tell us exactly where these users were clicking. And we made that immediate change. Then we saw on the heat map that like we had product tiles where people were navigating to kind of add to cart or learn more about the products. It's too far down on the page, but majority of the revenue is starting and driven from those specific tiles. And by us just moving those up the page so it's less of a scroll on mobile, we're able to drive almost 2 times the revenue from the same exact amount of traffic. That again was only coming from heat map. I think that's super powerful because it's able to track specific dollars per element on your website, and no other thing in the world can do this. Not that I know. And so this is why it's easy enough for me to use or our CRO to use. There's no negotiation. There's no back and forth. It's either making us money or it's losing us money. And it's the reason why I'm super thankful for the heat map team to be a part of this crew. And if you want to try it for 14 days, free of charge, worst case, doesn't work for you. Best case, you make a bunch of money, you save a bunch of money. It's a win all around. Hope you guys try it out.
There's another tool I can't think of off the top of my head, and this isn't like a tool time podcast, but like I just saw somebody using it this week to do that, where it's like we already have the video of the product, so they do a still video of the product. Yeah. So maybe they have a 10-second video of the product that's a still video, and then they ask it to do some kind of effect around the product. So this particular brand had a Green Lantern collaboration with their product, so they had a still video of the product of the Green Lantern collab product. Whoa. Fireworks around me from StreamYard.
Jeez, there's Sora.
I heard about Green Lantern and it was like, you said the keyword.
One thing I want to...
For the audio listeners, I just had fireworks.
Yeah, speaking of AI creative having no feel, right there you go.
No touch, no finesse on AI. And so they had the video of the product just sitting still, and then they gave it a few different prompts like, hey, could you like do some like growing lightning, and then it like disappears or whatever. And they ended up with something pretty cool, that is like a pretty cool teaser video for that drop that's upcoming. So there is some cool stuff it can do, but it seems like it works a little better if you have like a video of the product being still rather than a photo, which you could take that photo and just turn it into a video of the product being still, I suppose.
Yeah.
One thing I want to circle back to, something that you said, John, about like people being worried about getting left behind or like missing out on this. Mm-hmm. I think we drastically like overestimate that fear, because I think the time it takes for these things to actually develop and get good is like, you're not going to be a month late to making AI creative. Like, right. Just like I think we've touched on this last episode. If I'm going to launch a new brand today, I'm launching it on Shopify with Facebook ads. That's been true for the last decade of like where people would go. You haven't missed out on anything because you're not on it today. Mm-hmm. And I think like for us at OG being like, still relatively small, but fast growing brand, I kind of wait for like, hey, let's wait till the industry giants are crushing on this for a month or two. And then once it's proven and they've worked out the kinks and the tools are up to speed, we'll hop on it. But for now, like we're having no problem growing the way we are with our current tools and team and tech stack. So I'm not going to mess that up by trying to jump to something that's not ready,
I think you see stuff like this. I just saw this posted today and it's small, so I'll kind of read it. And for the audio listeners, I'll read it. So somebody posted this they posted this on Instagram from a Reddit thread. Somebody posted that I feel physically ill. I just need to vent. Really sorry if this is really incoherent, and sorry if it's not the right sub. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into becoming into my field. I worked my ass off through my computer science degree, spent hundreds of hours on side project. I ended up at big tech companies. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. I worked at Google and Amazon and Facebook. They were all really stressful. So I took a big pay cut from 300K to down to 180K to work at a big bank. Loved the job. And then, I saw a future here. passionate about engineering. I love coding. My team of 10 plus developers ten developers plus 3 analysts just got let go. The writing was on the wall because there was talks about it earlier this year. The company started adopting AI last year. They started super late, but then they were investing more into it. I'll be 100% honest with you. I was skeptical, so I never used it or studied about it much, thought of it as another fad. I don't know 100% if this is because of AI, but management straight up said it was. All I know is that AI is advancing at a crazy rate, and I'm beating myself for not seeing it. I'm well connected, and I could get another job as a developer, but I kind of don't know if I see the point at this point. So I think we see stuff like that, and that's what worries us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that person, I think, just solidified what I said of like their company started investing in it last year, and they were aware of it. Like,
yeah,
AI has been able to code for a couple of years now,
Yeah.
and it's been proven that it works. You should get good at it. But like, if you're a graphic designer today, I mean, you should be playing with it and keeping an eye on it. But like, I don't think anyone's firing departments today,
right. And
because
already
of AI static ads today.
design in
Again,
our
they might
industry,
in 90 days, but they're not today.
design in our industry too is already pretty offshored. You know what I mean? I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, in e-commerce, I think either you're doing it like a key team member is doing it, like Bart's doing all the design of his ads and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have an
Or
in-house
you
creative
do
team.
have an in-house designer.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's cool. I think a lot of graphic design work is offshored for a lot of companies at this.
Yeah.
At this
Well,
point.
and like that's also the unique thing about us, and a little bit for Dad Gang too, is like at the foundation, we're a fashion brand.
Yeah.
Like, we have to make stuff look good and look cool. So like,
Yeah.
that's crazy important to us. All the examples of these ads that I see are of Ridge Wallet, which love Ridge and the guys over there, but like it's a flat rectangle of metal. There's not a ton of detail that goes into their best-selling black wallet, you know?
Right.
I have it. I've been a customer. I'm not shitting on them as a brand, but like, yeah, of course AI can make black rectangles that pass for good creative. But if there's any level of detail to what your product has today, like, it's not ready yet. Play with it. Check it out.
Yeah.
8 months, we might do a podcast where I tell you guys that all of our creative is AI now, but it's not right now.
If I were to kind of tie a bow on this, I think back to what you were saying earlier, Nate, you're like investing more into creative this year than you ever have in the past. I'm announcement pending, but I am joining an in-house team. Like I'm going to be in-house at a brand, and like what I've been telling them. So I've already kind of started. What I've been telling them is like the name of the game for us in direct to consumer. You know, because we're not a rock auto where we're just demand gen. We have to be elite at content creation, right? Like that's kind of it. Like, obviously the product has to be really good, but the marketing team, we have very little control over how good the product is. We have, plenty of input on what kinds of products we should be coming out with and releasing and stuff like that, but very little control over how good the product is, and this is, I'll just, some insight, it's in food and beverage, right? So a lot of it's in the formulation.
I thought it was going to be Rock Auto for sure.
Yeah, rock auto. Yeah, I've just been subtly pitching this whole time.
So you started with it, and then you're like, and
the good news,
guys, by the way, if you use code John at rockauto.com, that would help you out.
Then this whole podcast was just gonna be like, and the good news, boys, is we're actually raising a little round of funding right now, and I'm letting you guys in on the ground floor.
Dude, if the checkout pod was sponsored by Rock Auto.
There it is.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I've been telling them is like, as a marketing team, obviously we have input on what products we come out with, but after that, our job is to be elite at content creation for the most part, and then the rest of it becomes pretty easy if we are. So to your point, I'll pay multiple creative teams, like outsourced and internal, to do the same thing. And the way I look at it is that it's sort of like a pyramid. And the base of my pyramid is like, do I have enough volume of creative where I'm never afraid to cut an ad because I've got more, right? Do I have enough volume of creative where if I don't think a post is very good, we don't post that one because we've got another thing that we can post or something like that, an organic post, right? So that's kind of the base level of the pyramid is, do we have enough volume? And I think that there's some play over the next maybe 90 days or in a really short period of time where AI is helping with this, right? And then there's sort of like the next levels of the pyramid where it's like, okay, and then there's this next level where are we making like really good stuff? And then there's this top level where are we taking like really big swings that, for the most part will fail and there'll be strikes, but for, some of them will be like big hits, right? And I might pay a creative agency that just is giving me stuff for Facebook ads. That's just like, oh, you're my 20 ad a month agency or my 30 ad a month agency. You just like send me volume and you cut up the stuff that I've already shot and maybe you shoot a little bit of new stuff, right? And then I might pay a different creative agency the same amount and their job is like 6 ads and they're coming up with big swings. I'm paying 2 different agencies to do the same thing. And then maybe I even have like a third internal person who makes ads. Like, because I diversity of ideation, right? All of them are going to have different ideas and I don't want them to really infect each other with their ideas. And like diversity of sources and styles and things like that, I think is like pretty huge. And so, yeah, I'm on the same page. I am down to spend a lot on creative because I think that's the name of the game, is being elite at that. So I think, from a skill set standpoint, the skill set isn't necessarily like, how can I get so good at AI that I can prompt it to make 200 really good ads, because 200 shots on goal, one of them is bound to hit. You're not wrong. Like, sure, there's maybe some room for that at the base level of the pyramid, but I think like the real skill set is building like the muscle of like, okay, how do you really write that? Like, what's the 5% of things that AI is like pretty bad at replicating? So an example I use a lot right now is humor. It's pretty bad at doing humor still, right? Or like it's pretty bad at like taste.
Most humans are too.
It's pretty
in
bad
the defense of AI. A lot of people aren't funny and they think
This is
they
a
are.
great
Grok
example.
is a little better at humor than OpenAI.
Grok is just a little more unhinged.
Yeah.
You make a good point, Nate. AI is pretty bad at a lot of the things that most humans are also pretty bad at.
Yeah.
So get good at one of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the skill set to build.
Well, dude, and like what I think about of like things that brands should invest a lot in is things that are hard and things that are high impact.
Right.
And I think creative and humor both check those boxes.
Right.
Like, hey, great creative is really hard to make,
Mm-hmm.
and when you make it, it creates a really big impact on your brand. So I'm happy to invest in it because if we do it right, it's going to pay off. And
yes,
I don't know when like creating better content became a controversial idea.
Yeah.
But yikes for our industry that it is.
Well, in a sense, good news, right? Because if you're in that, if you're in the group of brands that's zigging while everybody seems to be zagging, it could be really good for you. It could end up really bad for you too, but it could end up
well, and like that's the punchline. I think I said this in our Slack channel part the other day of like, now seems like a really good time to create content that has the human touch and is different than what every brand is going to be
so
creating.
uniquely human, it's like hard to fake, right?
Yeah.
No, so another good example is my buddy OC Chiropractor. He's the biggest chiropractor on TikTok. We grew up together, and he started a pillow brand called Dozy Boy. It's really nice pillows.
Great name.
Chiropractor. It just fits, right? And he is making like little like comedy short movie style ads, and they're so entertaining, but like sell the product really well at the same time. Like he just released another one that's like America is throwing out their old pillows and getting Dozy Boys. And it's just like a video of an entire neighborhood. Like, I think it's where his brother lives. They convinced everybody to like make a cool little video of everyone throwing pillows out of their window onto the street, and then new Dozy Boys showing up to their doorstep. And it's just like true classics almost, where it's like really funny, but gets to the point, drives home a message. And they're like, his team, because he's got a marketing team, they're like doubling down on this stuff because it's working, but it's like real effort, lots of cameras, some actors involved. Like they're not going like, oh, okay, let's just make some like simple UGC. It's super easy and cheap. They're like, no, let's make mini movies about this thing.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. That's my thesis right now, actually, is that if you kind of like lean into that, that's like, you can either go like fully lean into this and be like, I'm going to do 500 freaking ads a week. And I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe that'll work for you. Or you could go the other way like that, where it's like, it's pretty hard for AI to replicate this. You know what I mean? And if you can say that about a lot of the, at least some of the creatives, a good number of the creatives that you're doing, that is it's probably like a good, that's probably a good heuristic for like, you know, something that could be really, really good. Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys know John Bellion?
Yeah.
Cool. No.
He's a singer, songwriter, producer. He's got a line in his song where he says, I was never focused on getting bigger, just getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more ecom brands need to think like that.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a phrase that gets thrown around in like, you know, recording studios, specifically in Nashville. That's don't try to write a hit song. Don't try to write something that's a hit. Try to write something that's true. And then
yeah.
it'll, you know, and then the hit will come. Cool. I mean, we're at an hour. We have time for one more quick one. Nate, anything you want to chat about
Oh,
today?
what do I
Speed round
got?
here.
Well, Bart's been texting me all day about watches, and I haven't responded to a single text of his. So I'm sorry for that.
It's all good.
Bart,
Got work
first
to
tell
do.
me, I'm interested to know what's caught your eye from Watches and Wonders this year.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then I can kind of give my little quick spiel on why we're not super like pushing new
Involved.
products right now. Yeah.
Yeah, the Land Dweller has been like the biggest talk of all watches. I mean, Rolex releasing a brand new band and a brand new model style.
Yep.
It's just kind of like, from what it looks like, kind of like a shock to the watch world, because a Land Dweller, nobody's heard of that before. Brand new band. They had Roger Federer like wearing it in the Alps or
Sneaky tease
something.
it the other
Sneaky
day.
tease, and then
Yeah.
like, but no, like Cartier put out some new like Santos watches, and then Bulova set the record. I think it's Bulova set the record broke their own record for making the thinnest watch in the world. So there's a lot of fun things coming out of it. They're all like luxury brands that most people can't afford, but it's just fun to watch. Like, I'm not going to buy any of these watches
So
for the time being, but at the same
does
time,
that,
it's like good
sorry, go ahead, Bart.
announcements, you
Finish your
know?
thought. Yeah. I have
No,
a
no,
question after.
it's just like the my Twitter feed at least is just filled with watch news and
Yep.
people reacting to them.
There's in auto, there's this trickle down of like the stuff that gets used in racing will end up in cars, like just, you know, off the line cars, like 5 years
Yeah,
later or
yeah.
whatever. Is that trickle down effect? Do you see that in the watch game? Because it sounds like you're saying like the watch game at the top level is sort of being shaken up a bit at the moment.
Yeah.
Either with like, you know, material assumptions about materials and or bands or like what's luxury or whatever. Does that same kind of thing, like, does that sort of like, is there a trickle down effect in the watch game the same way as there is in like auto or maybe some other industries that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head as well, Nate?
Yeah. So let me finish my drink before I talk about the watch industry.
Yeah.
That's all right.
What are you drinking? What do you little the checkout
Take a
brought to you by
guess. Take a guess, John.
JD.
just some
Say,
straight JD, no mixer, huh?
This is a Jack Daniels. Well, this is a special one. This is their special release from 2022. It's an American single malt.
Nice.
It's finished in sherry cask, so it's super smooth. Little signature by the master
Nice.
distiller too.
Damn.
Look,
Anyways.
I know I asked, but we did just make it so we have to mark this content as not for kids. So thanks for that.
Shoot, sorry. But all
I
right,
might edit
so
it out. Okay, I don't know.
watches. So watches and Wonders is like the festival, whatever thing that happens in Geneva this time every year. Every luxury Swiss watch company brings their newest and latest and greatest. So a couple things of how like I think about that as the marketing guy for a watch company. One, people talking about watches is a good thing for us. Like, you know, big believer in rising tide lifts all ships. We only exist in the watch industry because Rolex existed 100 years ago and created this demand and world that we live in now. We could do a better job through our content of being more involved in this conversation. It is not a priority for us today because there's surprisingly little overlap between the people who care about what's going on in Switzerland right now and our customers. Our customers, believe it or not, are traditionally not watch guys, which puts us in a real unique, challenging spot of selling watches to guys who aren't watch guys. But that's where we've existed for the last couple of years, but we're on a mission to change it. We're on a mission to move upmarket. I was in product development meetings for 2 hours today talking about higher quality and better watches that we are going to bring to the table that these watch nerds and dorks and snobs are going to be interested in. And I say that endearingly as a guy that's gotten really obsessed with watches in the last couple of years. So we are working on kind of pushing up market so people that are interested in the releases today will also be interested in our brand, and we hope to become more a part of that conversation.
Okay, I know you're running a lot of product catalog ads and you're using Marpipe. What are some of the creative tests in your catalog ads that you've noticed that have worked well for Dad Gang?
Honestly, for for us, the thing that's performing really well right now um is like a three grid breakout of the hat. So a lot of our original catalog ads would just have like the front of the hat showing and not the second image. So being able to showcase like the front, the side, the back of the hat in one ad. The other one, as simple as it sounds, is just like actually putting the price front and center,
Mm.
like a little red circle that actually shows the price, because our hats are great quality, but they're only $35 compared to a lot of like the similar quality of a hat out there is like $45 to $60. So I think being able to showcase an affordable price in one ad is helping too.
So, and like Marpipe specifically, they just bust out tons of variations of your catalogs and keep testing it.
Yeah, you just integrate directly into Slack with their team, let them know what you're kind of looking for. They bust out a bunch of variations. It connects directly into your Ads Manager account, and you don't even have to do that much within Ads Manager. It's a seamless integration into everything you're already doing.
If you're any kind of brand that wants to put your catalog ads on steroids and get more returns, better returns out of your catalog ads, check out marpipe.com. All right, back to the pod.
In the meantime, while we're kind of currently not, we set our product release calendar kind of in line with the moments that do matter more to our customers. So for us, that's Father's Day and Christmas. So we're about to go on a run. In the next 60 days, I think we're launching 25 new watches. And they're with big brand collabs with Ford and Coors and the Ryman in Nashville. And we've got some of our own coming out too that are going to be our highest quality watches that we've ever put out. So that's kind of where we sit in the watch industry. We've done a great job of moving up market so far. 2 years ago, our best selling watch cost $200. Our best selling watch today costs $450. So that's more than 100% growth in price on our highest unit sold watch. And that's what we talked about in our product dev meetings today, was creating $1,000 watches that higher end watch guys are really going to care about and be impressed by. So that's kind of where we're at today, and hopefully where we're going.
I wonder if, so I think there's two pathways to moving up moving up market into a more like serious about this market. One pathway is finding a way to like kind of entry points to the people who are already there, like so finding entry points to the people who are already watch nerds. And then another one is taking people who aren't yet watch nerds but have decided to spend a little bit on a watch, maybe a little bit more on another watch, whatever, and sort of making them, and like not making them watch nerds, but like allowing them a pathway to be watch nerds. I think this is kind of how like I've gone into any kind of product category I've gotten nerdy into, is like I'll find somebody who I like that kind of meets me at my level, and then I'll get deeper and deeper into it. And as they, I'll get deeper and deeper into their content that is deeper and deeper on the product. So like, I almost wonder, what it made me think of, and, not that I'm on your marketing team and I'm sure you guys have talked about this, but I almost wonder if you guys have
I'll
like
take
a
all the
content
free consulting
What's
you've
that?
got. I said, I'll take all the free consulting you've got if you're offering.
I almost wonder if you guys could do content like this where you position yourselves as like we know about watches for, and you're doing content for like the people who don't know about watches. So this is not necessarily about watches. This guy does like marketing like he does
Yep.
breakdowns of marketing campaigns or whatever, but he just green screens like, all right, so you see this or this, right? Like he's kind of like breaking down and kind of putting it into terms for somebody who doesn't necessarily know very much about it or whatever, or maybe knows a little bit, but isn't like deep in it. I wonder if you could kind of do the same thing in the watch game where you'd be like, oh yeah, and this like, here's why this is important or significant or whatever. So it's like, I'm not a big art fan, but I'm told that like if you go to an art museum, you should go with somebody who like gets art and specifically art history, so they can help you understand the context of like the history when that piece
Yeah.
was made, and then you'll enjoy it more.
It,
And
it,
yeah,
yeah, it's honestly the same with whiskey. Like
uh-huh,
if you try any whiskey in the world without being told about it, it's going to taste like whiskey
right,
until
Yeah.
someone tells you like the notes you're supposed to catch and the smells
right,
and flavors. Like you uncover a lot of the complexities in it.
mm-hmm.
But the kind of like educational content is something we've talked about and haven't done well yet. But that is also how we're thinking about this move up market, is like we're going to
Mm-hmm.
create products for brand new customers, but we also need to tell, I mean, we don't have almost 1 million customers now
Mm-hmm.
who I would put in the category of like not watch snobs that have
Right,
bought a watch from us for probably $200 to $300, that if I explain to them with compelling content why our new ones cost 400,
right,
we will get a chunk of them to move up to that next level of quality.
yeah.
And yeah, that can be
And
super important for
I
us.
think you set them up nicely by explaining like, oh, this like Rolex thing. Here's why this is kind of groundbreaking. Why this makes it cost $100,000 or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like if they've been saying that. Here's like here, here's Rolexes for people who don't know shit about watches, right? Like I
Mhm.
think honestly, your guys' brand, it's not fully like that. Like, here's this for people who don't know shit about it, right? Like, I don't know if it's like that blunt or whatever, but if you like different language to capture that same thing of like, here's what's kind of cool about this in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? That is, that anybody can kind of think is kind of cool about it if you're into this at all, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
and
think
like
that
we've
kind of
had
brings
some
people up market too.
and we've had some success, like kind of like poking fun at like the top
Hmm.
percent of the watch industry as well. Like I retweeted the Land Dweller tweet the other day and I was like, why isn't it made out of wood?
Right.
And
Yeah. I
like
saw
that
that.
kind of
That's
content
funny.
is
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
does well with our audience. Like average Americans who think spending 10 grand on a watch is ridiculous, because it is. Like
Yeah.
we're used to in our ecom bubble of like seeing people at conferences with $50,000 watches on. That's crazy. Like
Yeah.
that's a bananas thing that 99.5% of Americans will never sniff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we can be doing a better
I think,
job of it for sure.
well, I think you could still take that tact of like, look, is it ever worth it to spend 10 grand on a watch? Like, there's nothing in a watch, there's nothing anyone can put in a watch that make it worth 10 grand. Only a brand does that, right? So it's like you're paying 10 grand, like, so you could kind of break down Rolex and be like, here's what is kind of cool about it. Is it worth 100 grand? Probably not. You're paying for Rolex on your wrist, but it is what it is.
So just
Like here's what is kind of cool about it, and what I would maybe like to integrate into some original grain watches in the future. Peace.
there's like Cartier does a good job of this with kind of justifying their price. Is like one of the new watches they released at this conference was like there's like 100, no, I forgot how they said it, but it was like there's 110 man hours into every single watch that
Yeah,
they put out. So like
that's
the
cool.
stone setting, the automatic movement adjustment, like the little like small details that go into every watch, and they positioned it as like 110 man hours per watch.
Hmm.
And then stone setting and like actually putting diamonds into a watch obviously increases values, but like when you can get into those like granular details, like I think Nate, you said on another episode, like this tree had to be grown for 100 years
Right.
in order for that tree to get chopped down and then made into a watch. Like those little stories, or big stories in this case, are like that's what does add value and price to certain items. Whereas like I saw that Cartier watch, I'm like, geez, 110 man hours just for that one
Yeah.
watch. So they went, when they make another one that's 220 hours spent on 2 watches. I think that kind of stuff, if people value like meaning behind the craft,
Mhm.
that does add a ton of value to certain items.
When you
100%.
even
It's
it
all
comes
how
down
you position it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think my thesis basically is exactly what you're saying. I think it just becomes more easy to tell the story of your product, and people bear with you more when you tell the story of your product if you tell stories kind of about everything, about every product, right? Like you're kind of like the
Yeah, for
storyteller
sure.
of this space. You know what I mean? That's your thing.
Yeah.
Then it becomes really easy to sort of like, yeah, give me a minute to tell you the story about this product. You kind of buy yourself the
Mhm.
time in advance when you want to tell the story about a more expensive product. I think this is a big thing for a lot of e-com brands, D2C brands that are trying to charge premium, but don't maybe necessarily have a big brand name in a product category. I was talking to a knife company that has a very, very good reputation in pocket knives. You know, is like very high end pocket knives. And they're coming out with like a kitchen, like a butcher knife, basically. I think they call it something else. Um, and it's $500. And I'm like, I just,
Yeah.
like you can't just show me this knife for like why you have to explain why this is. I feel like I missed part of a movie here, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I walked into a middle of a movie and I missed an important scene, and they're like, oh well, it's because of our brand name, we're like known in this. I'm like, yeah, but not in this, you know. And like so they're not really like selling a lot of these knives. It reminds me of there's I don't know if you guys know the comedian Bo Burnham. But
Yeah.
in one of his specials, he has this thing where he like talks about going to a Kanye concert, and he's like, Kanye was just doing this thing at the end of his concert where he just complains mostly about how people aren't buying his $500 t-shirts. That's the most they're complaining. I'm like, yeah, like you got to explain why it's a $500 thing. And I think if you're the person who's kind of always explaining this industry, then you kind of buy yourself the time to explain it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And yeah, that's something we're thinking about a lot is like that kind of like education piece and like storytelling piece of communicating the value has helped us, bring our AOV from 200 to 350 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll definitely need it to get to 1,000 if that's where we want to be in
Yeah.
5 years. And yeah, that's stuff, no matter what you sell, like is so impactful to be able to, tell a story of the man hours that went into it or the years that went
Yeah.
into developing it. One of the headlines I saw came out, I think that was from that thinnest watch you saw, was like that watch has more patents, like design patents for
Mm,
like in their movement than anything else. And like talking about the development and everything that goes into it to then justify whatever price you show people
yeah.
is crazy important.
Nice. Cool, guys. Well, Nate, we appreciate you stepping in. Nate had 20 minutes notice today, so everybody hop in the comments, let Nate know they appreciate him. Otherwise, it'd have just been me and Bart. I don't even know how that goes, right? Like we haven't even tried that yet, so I don't
Do
know
you
if
have a
Bart and I are
frame
that
for
good at
two of
playing.
you or no?
What's that?
Do you even have like a StreamYard for frame for two of you, or would you need a new one?
I know I would have to like build a new little frame for me for just me and Bart. um, so yeah, appreciate you hopping in. I think it's more fun when we have more smart people together. So yeah, everybody follow. Yeah, hit your handles really quick. Everybody follow Nate.
At Nate Legos on Twitter. Check out the Tactical and Practical podcast. Each week I break down one tactic that's going well for us. And even if you don't think the podcast is that good, it's only 10 minutes long.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you can
It's
go check out episodes quick and it's easy.
sort of that idea of like going counter, like you go short with it. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty,
Yeah.
it's
Super
We
short.
take up
practical.
a lot of your time.
Yep.
It's all good. It's easy when there's three of us hanging out.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going the opposite. Like most ecom podcasts are like 45 to 50 minutes. We're like, no, we're going to take the time any topic.
Go an hour 20.
Yeah, we
like
take the time a topic needs. That's kind of our, our vibe at the moment. Cool. Yeah. Subscribe, hit the bell, comment, let Nate know how awesome he is. And, leave a review if you're on one of the audio platforms. Peace.